Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's podcast. Middle of the way through October. Wow. Oh, Nora, what a beautiful picture. Thank you. Yeah. So I was laughingly saying to you before we started, by the end of this, you're going to be neuroscientists. Today's materials we talked about all of October is going to be dedicated to trauma, to whatever degree, in whatever form, whether it exists or doesn't exist. It doesn't hurt you to have the information. All right. And then even if you're not aware now, and I'm not trying to talk anybody into believing they've had trauma in their life, but if later on things are perplexing, what I'm hoping is that even if you're not aware of anything that was traumatic, if later on in times to come, things are kind of gray or they're not clear, but there's a niggling something, you will have better information to put that in its proper place, all right, in your life. And then you will have resources to go in search of whatever you need to resolve it. All right. So building on last week's message that the prevailing cultural advice for new parents actually contradicted the fact that right out of the womb, right at the moment of birth, our fundamental needs were for regulation, all right, to find balance and to the best of our personal ability and the context of our life to establish the best balance that we were able to. And being self-regulated, which is a $5 word but even just to a healthy degree, not 100%. Being self-regulated to a healthy degree is a cornerstone for the balance in our life, the balance that takes away the distress, that makes things manageable. I'm going to repeat that, all right, because this is a key, fundamental, the 3 questions: what do you need, where is it, and how do you get enough of it to make enough of a difference? All right, well, this is another key thought that I want you to always be applying to whatever you're trying to solve, that being self-regulated to a healthy degree, that means basically mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, you have your hands on the steering wheel. Sometimes the vehicle of our life goes out of a little control, or we get a little too something or a little not enough of something, but we've got our hands on the wheel and we are driving the bus that will create and give us that sensation, that experience of being healthy and balanced. Okay. We have many different systems, though, that are part of us, that are continually monitoring not just our body, but the context of our life. Context is everything. All right. No one is ever 100% anything, good, bad, or indifferent. The context drives the meaning for us quite often. So here are these systems that are trying to work. They're trying to give us feedback. They're trying to make us aware of things. Sometimes we listen, sometimes we don't. But so our body and our mind, and actually Claudia asked this question last week: do you think that your body can be working against you? No. Your body, your mind, and your spirit, whatever you call that spirit, that energy that is you, all right, that is always trying to make us safe, find safety and balance. So that's why it is so important not to listen to the voices on the committee, all right, not to listen to the fear, but to listen to what your internal messages to you and respect it, right? Because it is trying to get you to a safe place and be in balance. And balance is, there are basics about balance. You, just like your car, you've got to fill the car, you've got to maintain the car. What fuel are you putting in yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually? I know the other day I was reading the paper, just scanning it in the morning, and there was this horrible article. And I don't know why I bothered to read it, to tell you the truth, because it wasn't a long article, but by the time I had all of these descriptions of horror and whatever, I was feeling really like my body and my insides were fighting a war. And I'm not saying stick your head in the sand and not be aware, but respect your limits. Whatever was true that day, apparently I didn't listen to what my internal mind, body, spirit was trying to tell me. And I pushed myself beyond my limit and I paid the price. It took me days to get rid of that awful, just looming horror. And I felt it. I felt it physically. It interrupted my sleep. So be careful what you're taking in and what you're letting in. And respect whatever the internal message your mind, body, and the other parts of you are trying to tell you. Okay. We need enough food. We need enough water. We need enough oxygen. And when we're regulated, these systems, when they have what they need, they can help us mitigate. Can they completely handle stress? No, they can't. But they can put us in a better position to at least be able to engage to a maximum degree to manage it. Because stress is what occurs. Stress is not a negative thing, all right, necessarily. Stress is what occurs when a demand or a challenge takes us out of balance, all right? We've misread something. We've overextended ourselves, all right? And so it takes us away from what they call our regulated set point. For each one of us, we have a regulated set point where, you know what, that's our okay place. We're bobbing along, all right? And we need to keep ourselves within some range of that. What happened to me reading that article, it took me completely out of my regulated set point, unconsciously. And when we get out of balance, we become dysregulated. My stomach was in a churn. I was in a mental mood that was like, I was really noxious. My sleep was affected. I took the dogs for a walk to try to walk it off. It was just, the pictures were looming in my brain. We become dysregulated, all right? And when we become dysregulated, something really interesting happens. That results in us experiencing discomfort and or distress. So you need to listen to those feelings, those impressions. And when we get back into balance, we feel better. Now, I'm not arguing in favor of living like a cocoon wrapped in wool, okay? I'm talking about managing. Some days we're better able to manage things. Some days we have more tolerance, but it's what I call take your own temperature. Take your own temperature and respect whatever the feedback is you're getting. This isn't the day, Elaine, to read that article. This isn't the day. Or, when you start getting negative feedback from your system, don't overextend yourself. All right, now, we also get relief from distress. All right, so stress and distress. And getting back into balance activates at a physiological level that sends the right hormones and chemicals to our brain, all right, which is command central for us. It activates reward networks in the brain. Your brain wants to be in balance. All right. It's sort of command central. All right. And it doesn't want you going off the rails physically, mentally, emotionally, beyond your limit. That is not to say not to press yourself, not to extend yourself, but respect the feedback you're getting. We feel pleasure. All right. We feel safe when we get into balance. And again, I know I gave Dr. Spock failing grades last week, but I was a parent who, was one of the side effects of Dr. Spock. Again, not wanting to disparage parents or parenting that you had or that you have provided others. When a familiar, this is another key element, all right? And I've heard this repeated in various forms, not just from Bruce Perry, not just from Gabor Mate, but at continuing ed courses that I take through Harvard. All right. I've heard this before and I understood it, but now I really understand it. I really have a much fuller, and I want to share that with you. And this is not to blame anybody, all right, you or anybody who parented you. When a familiar, responsive adult comes to the crying infant, two very important things happen. The baby feels the pleasure of being regulated after the experience of distress that they were giving out. And it also experiences the sight, the smell, the touch, the sound, and the movement of human interaction. These are loving sensations. They're experienced by the infant as loving sensations that are provided by this adult caregiver. Now, it's especially helpful if that caregiver can be relatively stable. I don't mean themselves mentally stable. I mean, it would be a consistent person. All right. Doesn't have to be all the time, but if most of the time it's familiar, that's something that infant really locks onto, that helps them experience the pleasure and the comfort and the safety. Okay. And so then they start to associate this person, this feeling, all right, with, as I said, pleasure, and the interactions with the caregiver when they respond to the needs of the infant cause in that infant's brain to connect relationships to reward and safety. This is how I am safe. Now, remember that as an infant, every single one of us, when we cried out for help, and I'm talking pre-verbal, all right, I'm not talking toddlers. Toddlers are important too, but this is happening way before we're able to walk or talk or even know that those things we're looking at, the rungs on the crib, are actually a bed. This is like right from ground zero, okay? We associate that, and that is what we seek, because the feedback physically, mentally, emotionally that we're getting, even as little itty bitty babies, is reward and safety, all right? And so when you are attentive and attuned and responsive as a caregiver to little ones, or when we had that as infants, we received or we have given literally the building blocks to a healthy path to support that infant's ability to regulate later in life. So if you're having difficulty with self-regulation, all right, perhaps it would be helpful to get off your own back. All right? To stop criticizing and finding fault with yourself. You may not have developed, and we're not trying to blame anybody here, but we can undo this, all right, with a lot of work. But first, with awareness. You got to know it to do it, all right? Perhaps we didn't have the most secure response. And so that did not determine that as an adult you are dysregulated. All right, that maybe didn't give us the best start, but it does not determine what today is going to be. All right, so, but what it does do is hopefully it will give us an awareness. Could there be, just to ask the question, could there be a missing piece here? And how do I give it to myself? How do I give it to myself now? Because you can. I believe firmly that every single one of us, no matter how good our parenting was, how effective it was, how ineffective, how somewhere down the negative continuum it was, all right, no matter what that was, we all have to reparent ourselves as we approach adulthood and we enter into and we are living today. We have to reparent ourselves. All right. And the great thing about reparenting ourselves is that in doing that, we are the only people who know us like we know ourselves. Nobody can know us as well as we know ourselves. Not the most loving partner, not the most loving parent, not grandparents. Some get closer to the mark, but we know ourselves like no one else can. So, what do you need? Where is it? And how do you get enough of it to make enough of a difference right now, today? When you're feeling dysregulated or you're feeling that, that kind of lost feeling like you're not yourself, but you want to get back to it. All right. When we provide those for ourselves, we are supporting the path in our brain to enhance our ability to regulate ourselves. And furthermore, with infants, all right, these bonding experience, they create a worldview for that infant without them even being cognitively aware, pre-cognitive awareness, all right, about humans, about the world, about interacting with others, and about life. Now, we all know through our family stories, through just, those messages that are repeated in families all the time, they almost become themes. Anybody have had that experience where you're looking back on the stories that your family told, each other, your parents told, the grandparents told, and there were themes, all right? And we kind of started to determine who we were and how we fit in this world and what we could expect and not expect. You know those messages? Well, those are started way, way, way back with the bonding experiences. All right. Now, some of those were meant to give us a leg up. All right. So that we don't repeat mistakes or errors that others have made. Some of them were given just because our parents really believed, that, one of the big ones is it's a sin to waste. Well, it is, but that's not the whole story. And the response and the reaction to it's a sin to waste, all right, has come from experiences of deprivation. All right, it's a sin to waste. Yeah, but you don't undo the negative of wasting by holding on to everything. All right. Sometimes we go too far in the overcorrection. So a consistent nurturing caregiver can each and every one of you here today, right now, take out the paper and pen I ask you to keep handy, and I want you to write down one way right now in your life that you can be that nurturing, consistent caregiver to yourself. What one way right now today can you be a consistent, nurturing caregiver to yourself? Because we can redo, we can enhance, we can improve, we can make more effective because we're talking about ourselves. All right. Those brain links that help us have the confidence and the faith and a starting point with this one way to secure a more safe and predictable, caring environment for us to move forward within. What were we meant to learn? What is the piece about being able to be for yourself a consistent, nurturing caregiver? What were you meant to learn from the experiences you've had, even the worst ones? You were not meant to learn to defeat yourself with punishing self-criticism, shame, embarrassment. That is not what you were meant to do, because that just further disables you. That's like wanting to walk out of a fire and you cut yourself off at the feet. No, you don't disable yourself when you need to move forward, when you want to move forward, and you're worthy of moving forward. And every single person here today is capable of moving forward in the direction that they know in their heart of hearts they need to go. And yes, Alina, I'm glad you're finally saying to yourself, I am more and I am good enough. I want more and I'm prepared to work for it. But right now, I'm good enough. I'm not undoing a fault. I'm finding a way around a vulnerability. Every single one of us, myself included, have vulnerabilities that we have to watch out for, that we're susceptible to. Every single one of us. I don't care. The Queen of England had vulnerabilities. All right. You have vulnerabilities. I have vulnerabilities, and we have to find ways to work around them. Now, the other day, as I sat there reading that article, I don't know what happened. I ended up face down in the pool. All right. It really got a hold on me, whatever that was about. You'll notice that I've completely blocked out what the article was about. Maybe a little self-protection mechanism. I don't know who wants to go back there. If it was a Zowie, I don't think I want to remember right now. So when someone comes, when you're vulnerable and distressed, that helps you learn safety. Are you willing to be that consistent, supportive caregiver for yourself when you're distressed? Can you be that? Are you willing to be that? Are you willing to realize that you have the capabilities to be that? And generally, we work from our strengths. Never, ever, ever go to fear. Go to fact. When you are shaken by something, when you are dysregulated by something, step back, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, what more do I need to know that is factual? All right. Even in danger, Don't go to fear. Go to fact. Fact is, I have this, and going for me, and this is a problem. All right. All right. For those people here today who feel alone, we all go through moments of feeling alone. That's very different from lonely. All right. Feeling alone. We all go through that at some point, numerous times in our life. Will someone be available for you? And can that someone, I want you to realize that that someone can be you. You are never alone. All right? You are never alone. Because you have the person with you who knows you best. And in that moment, are you prepared to tell yourself the uncomfortable truths? We are enough. We are good enough, but that doesn't mean that there aren't things we need to keep an eye out that are true about us. Just as true, we are a balance, right? Are you prepared to be that caregiver for yourself? Do you believe you can be? The other thing we learned when we were an infant and someone came, we learned some really, really sustaining messages. Now, not all of us learned that because not all of us had that consistent caregiver. Sometimes it was based on timing. Sometimes it was based on availability. Sometimes it was based on Dr. Spock saying that we didn't get fed for another 4 hours. Sometimes it was based on the parent who was designated or the person who was designated couldn't be available. All right. And sometimes it's not just about us. Sometimes it's about the babysitters, the caregivers that we had. All right. But when we have that consistent, responsive caregiver, we learn that our needs matter. How many people here today believe 100%? Not that you're entitled to what you need, all right? Because that's a matter of context. Not that you're entitled. There's no entitlement here. But your needs matter. How many people, I want to see thumbs up, those people who are aware that their needs matter. Our needs, my needs, your needs should be factored into whatever the available resources and time and what is needed should be factored in. You're not more important. I'm not more important than anybody else, but I am equally important to anybody else. And I don't care who they are. All right. I don't see very many thumbs up. One more. Don't fake it. If it isn't true, don't fake it. But for heaven's sakes, be aware of it. Starting today. All right, starting today, we are here for you. This group of 45 people today are here for you. Come with your questions, come with your concerns. But first and foremost, be your own available caregiver. And the reason our needs matter is because we matter. No matter how much we have, how little we have, how smart we are, how not so smart we are, whatever those variables and measures are that people use. Somebody who is more of whatever is not worth more than the person who doesn't hold that characteristic. All right. The better you are at something, the more you have, doesn't make you worth more, doesn't make you matter more. Each and every one of us were given the gift of life. Each and every one of us, that is, we came into this world not with equal circumstances, but equal as people. Now, there are organizations and whatever that, don't support that. Gee, guess what? You can't change the facts. We matter. And I think it's especially important that we look at the technical part of the brain, okay? This is where things are going to get maybe a little boring. I just want to worry. But I really want you to understand that brain that we've been talking about and the hormones that we send to it, and then Command Central and how it sends messages. I really think we need to understand that brain a little more. And so, Hafsa, can you put up the screen share? Brain stuff still. I'm glad, Sarah. Sarah says brain stuff is not boring. That's great. Hafsa, are you there?
Yeah, now I'm here.
Can you send up the screen share?
Yes.
Okay. So here's an image from the book. Here's what it looks like. Okay. I'll put it in right there. You see what it is? We're going to put up a screen share here so that you can actually see it. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is the diagram of the brain as Bruce Perry outlines it. Because we still may be functioning based on bad data and unsupportive experiences, all right, that we in the past and maybe currently are still treating as fact. Identify those that are no longer useful to you, even if you're afraid to let go of those experiences. All right. That data that you think is gospel, if it's not working for you, chances are that it needs a revision. All right. And we are almost certainly to have been heavily influenced by other factors. All right. In that decision about we matter, our needs matter, that we can be our own caring, supportive, consistent caregiver, been influenced by other factors. Maybe our bodies have gone AWOL. All right. Maybe we live with depression and we don't feel that we can count that every day we've got what we need to get out of bed, to keep going. Maybe you're looking around your place right now and it's covered with things and you're feeling overwhelmed. And rather than break it down, rather than get the help you need, all right, you stay in overwhelm, being defeated by these things. All right. You're being heavily influenced by factors that have nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with you. All right. It has to do with the context. In what way right now? Big, small, or tiny, tiny, tiny. Can you be a present, available, consistent, supportive caregiver to yourself? Now, at the risk of becoming too technical, we're going to shift to this diagram, okay? And that is fact. Our brain functions like an inverted pyramid, according to it. And when Bruce Perry put this in the book, things started to make sense a lot more. According to Bruce Perry, our ability to regulation, okay, is comprised of, you see all this series and a set of neural networks, those are the tree branches, all right? Okay, and that our body uses those neural networks to help us process, okay? The most intelligent, the most successful, the least intelligent, the least successful, it all works the same way. Process and respond to stress. Those neural networks, they're not the same if we don't work them. all right, if we don't use them, if we're not aware of them, and we can't learn how to basically control traffic, all right? We tend to use the word stress in a negative way, but actually stress is just a demand, positive and negative and neutral, on one or more of our body's physiological systems. So what are the physiological systems? We're looking at our ability to breathe, our ability to regulate temperature, thirst, hunger, awakeness, need for sleep. All of our stressors and stress added up together are essential and positive parts of normal development. Even the negative ones, they are all essential for a positive development in our neural system. It's a key element in learning and mastering new skills, these neural networks. And here's the other thing that I bring to you. It's not just about mastering skills, getting smarter, getting better, getting whatever. It's also about building resilience. Who here in the last month hasn't had at least one experience where, man, oh man, you needed to recover? You needed to draw on the resilience that you have, the ability to summon. Anybody here not in the last month? Because we all envy you. I have, most of the people I know have. The key factor in determining whether stress is positive or destructive is the pattern of stress. Okay, now I want to just watch here from the bottom up. We have a set of core regulatory networks, or remember this term, neural systems. All right, they all originate in the lower part of the brain stem here that's called the reptilian brain. And then they begin to spread through the whole brain. Now they work together to keep us regulated in the face of various types of interruptive stressors, or sometimes just regular, predictable stressors. Collectively, okay, all of these branches of this tree of regulation, okay, direct or influence all of the functions of the brain. Yeah? Can somebody mute themselves? Thank you. All right. To direct and influence. So all of these neural systems, neural networks, direct and influence all of the functions of the brain, thinking, feeling, who doesn't do that every day, and the body at the same time. This really is command central, all right? So it tells your heart how to pump. It tells your lungs how to breathe. It tells your pancreas to do whatever pancreases do. I don't know, but I know you can't live with that one. And more, all right? They're all trying to keep us in something that we are seeking. Is there anybody here today who isn't seeking equilibrium? I don't think so. All right. But equilibrium is balance. Balance is self-regulation. So the degree to which you can get yourself into balance and eat that feeling of, okay, it's okay. It's not perfect, but it's okay. I'm in equilibrium. Is the degree to which you fight to develop better skills at self-regulation. Everything regulated, everything in balance. And it starts right here in the brain stem. That's responsible for, as I said before, us maintaining a healthy temperature, the ability to breathe, our heart functioning as it needs to. And just to remind you, this brain stem is referred to as the reptilian brain, all right? And above that is the, I can't even pronounce this. I'm going to spell it for you, all right? DIENCEPHALON. And if anybody can say that, you get a gold star. Part of the brain, right there in the center, all right? That's responsible for arousal, that we wake. Arousal may also be sexual functioning, all right? Or attraction, sleep, appetite, movement. It is sending messages through your neural network to help you move in a way that keeps your body limber and moving. Now, above that is the limbic part of the brain, and that's responsible for reward. So remember, we were saying before that when somebody comes, or when we can come for ourselves as infants, it was about reward. It was that pleasure reward, that safety reward. It is also responsible for memory. All right. Now, the interesting thing about that is that, years and years and years to come, if a day arrives, when you're in your 110 years, you can't remember what you had for breakfast. Apparently, long-term memories are still going to be available to you. This is what is responsible for bonding. First and foremost, before you bond with others, you need to bond with yourself. All right. You need to accept the good, the bad, and the indifferent. And where the bad and the indifferent, or sometimes the good, gets out of hand and destabilizes, deregulates you, you need to be loving enough of yourself that you can make a plan to bring yourself back into balance. It's also responsible for our emotions. Above the limbic part of the brain, way at the top, is the brain, the part of the brain called the cortex. Now, this is responsible for creativity, for thinking, for language, for values, an appreciation and awareness of time and how we manage time. Remember, Jane Birka talked about wishful thinking time versus clock time. This is the part of the brain that will cue you and regulate you, but you need to give it space to do that. You can't override it with habits, because the more you send energy through those neural networks, the more you strengthen some of the networks that don't regulate you. All right. It's how you use and how you repeat the actions, the messages, the chemicals, and the hormones that you send to your different parts of your brain. So you can't keep repeating the old habit that isn't getting you anywhere and say, oh, I just have a difficult problem with, hope or time or values or whatever it is. All right, that the cortex is responsible for. No, you need to be practicing good time management. You need to be challenging the values and the fears that you have around not having things, letting go of things. You might miss the deal. It's a sin to waste. And hope. All right, you need to practice those. Otherwise, you're just paving the road, and the other one is just stones. It's still there, but it is not as easily transmissible. You can't travel on that as quickly, as easily, as naturally. And our brain is trying to act just the way it's designed to work. It will work for you if you do the work. All right. And it will function for you if you do the work. All right. So basically, any sensory input, like a sight, a sound, a smell, a taste, a touch, can activate a traumatic memory. All right. It can activate a sight, a sound, a smell, a taste, a touch, can activate a traumatic memory. I remember one time, for instance, my father was in National Defense Medical Center because he had acquired brain injury from stroke, severe strokes. And I remember he passed, and I taught Highland dancing at that point, and I had all of my students arranged to come to the hospital. This is before he passed, to dance for the patients there. And I thought I was ready. However, when I went in just the smell of the hospital. I'm not saying the hospital smell, but there was a scent just brought me to tears. All right. So all of these are very, very powerful. All right. Okay. It's consistently an issue. I need to review the procrastination. Good for you, Lynn. I love it. And they can activate traumatic memories. So when you have an experience that you can't put your finger on, the meaning of which is notable, all right, I wonder what this is about, but it's unclear, please don't turn on yourself as your first reaction, okay? And stop asking yourself, what's wrong with me? Instead, ask yourself, what is the explanation and the meaning for this thing that has lopped itself in? All right. And now I need to figure this out. All right. Leave open the possibility that the first question you ask yourself is, okay, for safety's sake right now, what do I need? Maybe I need a bit more understanding. Maybe I need to pace myself at this. All right. But ask yourself, what is this like? Remember, it's unclear. It's pretty vivid, but it's unclear what it's attached to. What is this like? What, if anything, does this remind me of? Because there will be something about that that is tied to the anchor of why it's still in your memory banks and just waiting to be brought forward, because there is a reason. There's a good reason. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you had a bad trauma, all right? But it does mean that this response that's pretty evocative and unclear to you, all right, that it is currently right now unexplained. You can't fully understand it. You're pretty aware of that. And then it becomes the basis for you to formulate a plan. Where does this, perhaps it results in you giving up, just kind of letting it go back into the background. Sometimes that's okay, but sometimes it's time to put the baby to bed. All right. What is it familiar? What does it remind me of? All right. And is there anything about your emotions and things that come to mind? All right. Things that come to mind that are just still looming there, that creates a defeatism in you. Where does that defeatism come from? Okay. Where does that, it doesn't matter if no one came. It doesn't matter that, I don't come for myself. I have reasons I don't come for myself. Every one of the caregivers that came for us had reasons, probably at the same time and place, of why they needed to do something else. Show up for yourself. All right, be there for yourself. When no one came reliably, or even if they did, we learned a very important message. We learned how much we matter at that time. We took away the meaning of how safe we were. Okay, and Bruce Perry tells us that all experiences, all right, those experiences that are sitting there kind of popping up nebulously, all right, they all started from the bottom of our brain up, all from the reptilian brain. That's when you were no bigger than a pea, all right? They all started from the bottom up, which means that to get to the smart part of the brain, the frontal cortex, the command central, we all have to go through the lower ones. And those lower parts of the brain aren't so smart. They're very reactive. They're very responsive. All right. That also means that the most primitive reactive part of our brain. So when you have those reactions, don't be afraid. Don't blame yourself. Don't judge yourself. Don't talk yourself out of it. because they all start at the reactive part of our brain. That's the very first part of our brain that okay, Braden, you're going to have to cut that one. That's the very first part of the brain that interprets any act, any information that's coming to our senses. All right. So our brain is actually organized to act and feel before we think. I encourage you, when you are uncertain, put yourself on pause and give yourself a chance to catch up with yourself. Okay? Here's the brainstem. Here's the frontal cortex. Put yourself on pause and give yourself a chance to catch up with yourself rather than react, be afraid, shut down, be overwhelmed. Give yourself a chance so that our brain, which develops sequentially from the bottom up, can have the opportunity to get us to thinking rather than knee-jerk reactions. When you're overwhelmed, to give up, for instance. As an infant, we act and feel, all right? And these actions and feelings help, okay? They help us to learn, to organize how we begin to think. What happened to you and I is the key question. If you want to understand your brain, your personal history, and what in your life influenced your brain's development, we will continue next week to continue to learn how to understand how the brain developed. Once we understand how the brain develops, we can use that information better, certainly better than blaming ourselves or others. All right. So let me see where we are in the chat. And there we go. I'm going to go right straight up to the top. Self-regulation. Yes, self-regulation is the ability, first of all, physically, okay, then mentally and emotionally, to establish a balance. All right. And so that is why when I know you came in a little later in the podcast. So when this is posted, and I'm working with Braden to get all of them posted, when that's posted, go back and listen to the part, okay? That is how you get yourself, how you support yourself and give yourself what you need as you need it, enough, not perfectly, so that you stay in a pretty good range of being able to manage thinking, feeling, and it starts with our body. You've got to fuel the body to fuel the mind. All right. But self-regulation is when you can make a plan. Well, you can realize something needs attention. You can make a plan. You can carry out the plan. You can persist and maintain the plan. All right. You're driving the bus enough of the time. Okay. How can we convince our body to come out of inertia after being in a frozen state? Well, we're never really in a frozen state. After we've self-regulated and processed a trauma trigger, but then we're stuck with inertia because perhaps it feels safe. So safety isn't staying where you are when you feel unsafe. Okay, that's a contradiction. So if your body's shutting down, your body was not designed to shut down. Your body was designed to work for you, to help you, your body, your mind, and that energy we each have that we talked about with Sean Leonard, alive and dead, apparently. So accepting inertia, that is not the end product. That is where you stopped in the interrupted process. There may be a stage of having to fight to come out of it, but you can't say this enough. No matter what you can't do, there is always something, perhaps not as big, perhaps not as much of the solution, may not solve the problem. There is always something you can do. So when you feel that way, the first question I strongly encourage you to ask yourself is, okay, despite what I feel I can't do, all right, what can I do? What is the one thing I can do? Because I know it's a hackneyed expression, but I'll tell you, I have had to remind myself of this many, many times in life. All right. Doesn't matter how many times you fall, how many times you get knocked down. It only matters if you don't get back up. So in what way can you not make yourself? Don't even go to make yourself. In what way can you get back up? What can you do? And keep doing what you can do, no matter how small it is. All right. And you'll be back on your feet. But you never, ever, ever give up. If you are still drawing breath, never give up. Never give up. Okay. So where are we here? I've started telling myself I am more than good enough. You're up. And I also hug myself. Good for you. I wish I was there to give you a hug, Alina. Okay, this is such a great, oh, thank you so much, Karen. It's great. Thumbs up. Good, Kimberly. Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you guys. I'll ask you in a sec. I agree, but I don't do it. You don't do it. How come? Why do you not do it? Why do you not do it? What can you do? If this week you just ask yourself every time you feel that you can't do it, all right, stop and say, okay, Elaine says that at every moment when we are aware of and believe what we can't do, what can I do? What can I do that moves me one tiny step forward? And sometimes, you know what? Sometimes it's just getting out of bed. Sometimes it's actually giving yourself 3 meals. All right. Sometimes it's hydrating yourself. Sometimes it's like the other day with that article, you know, come on, guys, get your collars on. We're going for a walk, not because you need it, but because I need it. All right. Do you know how many times in the middle of a day I go for a walk? Not, but it was the one thing. Who's got time? All right. Yeah, it was the one thing I knew I could do. And what was I giving myself? Sounds hackneyed, but it's true. I was giving myself fresh air. I was giving me the wind in my face because I think in a last life, I was either a sailor or a West Highland White Terrier. I love the wind. And I just kept going. I just kept going until I could feel physically, it's like I had shed it. All right. And all really I'd done is burn off the stress hormone. Probably there was a raging shot of cortisol. But you know what? When I got back, and I didn't think when I left the house that I could do it. I thought, oh my God, I'm so tired. I'm so busy. And I thought, you know what? Just do it. Never mind. Just do it. The world is not going to come to an end. And when I got back, okay, I felt better. I felt better. Because I could have stopped at the door. I could have gone back to bed. I could have said to Hafsa, you're on your own today. I'm sorry, I'm upset. All right. Nope. Because that isn't the way out. That isn't the way out. And you know what? I'm not better than you are or more important than you are, but I deserve to get out of holes that present themselves in my life too. But I do recognize I have to lift my feet to do it. It isn't going to happen to me. Nobody's going to come along and lift me out of the hole. I have to do the first steps myself. Okay. Or I have to find the help I need. In order, if I can't figure it out, if after trying a number of times I can't figure it out, I get the help I need for as long as I need it, just as long as I need it. Okay. Okay, let's have a look. Now, It's so much easier to value other people's needs. Isn't it, Colleen? It can become a real habit. All right. And there are so many people who do feel that their needs come first. Their needs are equal to yours. But when they're getting one of their needs met, you should be getting, to the best of your ability, one of your needs, at least advanced. All right. It can become a habit. They are no more important than you are. They are equally important to you. I couldn't say that before, but now I know my. Good for you, Suzanne. Good for you. Woot, 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 woot. Okay. Mika, where'd you go there? Okay. Yes, I know. Yet I don't do it. Mika, we need to talk. Okay. I love this quote. Believe in yourself even when no one else will. Absolutely. Nobody can give you what you need. No one else can give you what you need. Okay. Sasquatch. Okay. There have been many times where I didn't believe in myself. I looked to others for my self-worth. Not anymore. We can look to other people. We can be given, no, that's wrong. We can be given the gift of acceptance and acknowledgement and affirmation by other people. But that isn't self-worth. That's just confirmation of what we already should be aware of. Okay. And at our worst moments, even when we are 110% in the wrong, so long as we are not deliberately hurting ourselves or deliberately hurting anybody else, okay, we are worthy of being treated with respect and compassion and love. Love is acceptance. It isn't I like you. Okay. Love is acceptance. It is not I like you or approve of you. Okay. Brain stuff isn't boring. Thank you, Sarah. We all matter. What a concept it is, Alina. We all matter equally. I don't care what the news says. I don't care what Russia says about the Ukraine about Russia. Everybody has the right to peace. Everybody has the right to the life that they are prepared to work for. Everybody. And you're prepared, you're entitled to your space and your place on this earth. All right, so don't be giving it away. Sometimes I still put other people's needs before myself, but I'm much better than I ever used to be. Good, Suzanne. We matter, but sometimes I feel stuck with inertia after processing a trigger. Take a rest, Claudia. Take a rest. Catch your breath. You're not running a marathon here. Okay, you're not running a marathon. It's stop for a water break. All right, summon your strength again. Remind yourself of what your strengths are. Remind yourself of what your skills are, even if they're not terribly useful to the situation you're facing. Who am I? Who am I? What am I good at? All right. What do I know about myself? All right. What have I got to use here to get myself moving? Okay. You've got to break the inertia habit. Is there any way to watch recording? Yes, there is, Asha. Braden goes through these podcasts to edit the sometimes, that moment. And it takes him a little while because he has his own media business. But yes, these are all going to be in the library. And I'm working with him as well. I'll tell you the story of the podcasts that are missing on the website right now. And I hope you've all been to the new website. I hope you've all had a look at it. I'd love to hear your feedback. So all of 2021 is missing because I wasn't very clear, and we had a musical signature added to the beginning, the intro and the ending, and I said, add it to the podcast. And what he did was he added it to the whole speaking part of the podcast. And I didn't know about it. It went on and on and on and on. And I kept getting, I can't hear you for the music. And I thought, well, the music ends. Anyway, I listened, I tuned in and I listened and realized, oh, that wasn't what I meant. Apparently removing the music is a whole lot harder than adding it. And so he's still working on that, but there will be podcasts going back to probably April 2021. All right. And this one will be on. It may take him 2 weeks to get it cleaned up and edited so that it's more professional rather than just as I'm speaking to you now. But it will be on hoarding.ca. All right. Carry and procrastination is consistently an issue. I need to go back and review. Yes. All right. Procrastination. Lori, I'm recovering from a total knee replacement. Oh, Lori, best wishes. It came just in time to avoid a serious burnout. While I'm at home, I've been trying to work on my house at the expense of my no. You don't work on your house at the expense of your physio exercises, because your physio exercises are forever. Your house is doable. All right. Your house is doable, and you make sure it's safe. Okay. The things that are going to be a continuing theme in your life, like your function, your physical function, that gets priority. And with whatever you have left over, all right, with whatever you have left over, you work on the house. All right. This is not going to go on forever. No. All right. Reptilian brain is driving the bus. You're right. Why is my frontal cortex on vacation? It isn't actually on vacation. It's just not picking up the message. It's just not picking up the message. So I know what I wanted to ask you. So what I would like to do with the podcast is I believe, I've been told that this is true, and we will test it. I'd like to put all of the podcasts on my YouTube channel as well. Now, they don't get to see the screen. Like, I can see your faces, those of you who have your cameras open, and your names, I can see them. That will not be available, and the chat will not be available to the YouTube channel, maybe going live on Twitch. I don't think that is... They see me, they don't see anything else, is my understanding. So we're going to try that because somebody has said it's a great idea. It gets the information out on a broader scale. And so I just wanted to give you people a heads up on that within the next few. If you have any concerns, let me know at elaine.birchall@hoarding.ca, and we'll take it from there. I will see you next week. You take care, everybody. Make it a good one.